Gary Edward Gedall, psychologist, psychotherapist, with you again. It's Monday night. I am in my little apartment in Lausanne, Switzerland, and I am back. Um, some people have asked me what was happening last week in this very weird situation. Well, just for your information, I was in the car driving back from, yes, I was in England, driving from Oxford to Dover. That's my YouTube that said that I'm live. Good for that. So last week, I was live using my small tablet. That's why it was hello, just saying what happened last week. And it was a bit strange to try and use my tablet. I've never used it before to do a live with videos and things like that. So it was a bit complicated for me. I have no idea what it looked like. I appreciate the one people that came, watched, and stayed with it. But it was a bit weird. But anyway, that's just the way things are. So I was driving from Oxford to Dover, and afterwards I drove from Dover to Lausanne in Switzerland. A little jaunt in the car with a few breaks, of course. So that's what it was last week. So this week, it's the second half of Prince Harry. So Prince Harry, we all know him. Some people like him, some people despise him. I think he's a very troubled young man. I think he's a very nice young man. That you'll see explained in the video if you watch it. And I was just thinking of the video that you're going to see. And one of the things is there's some very nice images that I have managed to create, especially at the beginning. So that's going to be something to worth hanging around for. Some of the really nice images that we have, and we'll have a certain look. So this is the second part of Prince Harry. For those who saw it last week, will know that a little bit of his early childhood and certain things about him, and so this week look a bit more about his connection with Meghan, and how they met and things like that, and what happened a bit straight afterwards. I'm not going into the details of the American stuff and things like that. I don't think it's that appropriate. That's sort of like it's sort of more modern news, but it's not very interesting psychologically from my point of view. It's very sad the way that he dealt with his family and his grandmother and his father. But if you actually listen to all that I've written about Harry and all that I'm about to talk about Harry, because it's also Harry comes in some of the later episodes. The next episode that I'm putting together now, which is a case study, which is very, very interesting, because it talks about someone totally different than the two of them. And yet, when you watch the whole of the case study, which is actually going to be over 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to be quite long, but I think it's very, very interesting, and it's something very much worth watching. So anyway, so let's just get into it, and let's just see what we've got about Harry, and let's just see how this works. It's always interesting to see if we get this working as it should. Who is Meghan Markle? Hi, this is Gary, psychologist, psychotherapist, family therapist, looking at Who is Meghan Markle. Tonight we'll be looking at the last segment of Who Are Meghan's Men, which is the second part of Who is Prince Harry. So, just to recap a little bit from last week, both Harry and Meghan experienced the separation of their parents from a very early age. Even if the official separation between Charles and Diana occurred much later on, there is quite a lot of documentation that Diana was already seeing other men for quite some time before the official separation. Both Doria and Diana were quite young and much younger than their husbands. Doria and Diana were both headstrong, creative, fun women who seemed to have felt too limited by their marriages. They both were quite absent during the early years of both Harry and Meghan, but yet were very capable to create very positive experiences and memories for their children during the times that they were together. On the other hand, the fathers, Charles and Thomas, were older and much more stable. They also had much more means to offer to their children, who clearly benefited from many material comforts. However, they were likely to be both fairly introverted and much less expressive than the mothers. So, that's my mini resume of last week's segment. We'll now continue and complete our look at Prince Harry and his relationship with Meghan. Now, many people say that Harry was the prey for Meghan to latch onto and to benefit from, and I'm certainly not thinking to say that there's no truth in that vision of reality. However, I would suggest that things are not quite as simple as all that. I think that underneath all that, there's actually a lot of good reasons why they should be together. Good as in a psychological explanation of why they would have been attracted to each other. And I don't believe it's been good for them. I believe she has really dragged him down a really bad path. Such a conflict with his family, and to upset his family so much, and for her to be sort of stoking him up all the negativity that he's felt in his life, being abandoned by his mother as a child a bit, and then a lot more with her dying and things like that. So that's the other thing. And he's really not been capable to fill those gaps, which you can understand. And also to be thrown into all these expectations and structure. So we'll just have a look at his life. He started at the Jane Minor's nursery at only 3 years old, then Wetherby School at 4, already a change, followed by Ludgrove School, a boarding prep school, away from home, away from everybody, at the age of 8. Now that's pretty early, although for certain English people it's not so weird, but it must have been difficult for him, I would guess. Then Eton College, before entering military training at the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst instead of going to university, which I really don't think was his thing. I mean, he coped with it, he assumed it, and it was somebody that people really liked and appreciated. And also on the social level and on the charity level, I believe he is someone with a big heart. I believe he's someone that could be incredibly loving and caring. Just he got lost and he's been dragged away from his family, who would have been the most protective people he could have been with. He should have just stayed the prince and married some lady from some shire somewhere to look after him forever, who would take charge of him and who would help fit into the rules of the British royal family, the monarchy, the business. But unfortunately, the shiny ball attracted him and he went for it. And there's no question she is and was a very shiny person. I'm just going to carry on with this thing that ChatGPT has said about Harry. Empathy and compassion. Gives great empathy and compassion. From a young age, Harry was exposed to humanitarian work through his mother. A little bit like Meghan, no? His ongoing charity involvement, particularly with wounded veterans and disadvantaged youth, reflects deep empathy and a desire to connect meaningfully with others. I think that's really true. Extroversion, introversion, it says here, traits of an ambivalent. It says in public roles he appears confident, approachable and sociable, often engaging in work with crowds. In contrast, there are admissions of struggles and anxiety, and other people go with that. This ability, again, to be an introvert who has succeeded in doing what's necessary because of his role. Just like Trevor, who could do what's necessary with his work or Thomas, who had come in, tried to be with other people. Basically, they're all introverts. And I think Harry is basically an introvert, which would fit in to the pattern. It says that he's resilient and adaptive and adaptable because succeeded in service, combat deployments, issues like discipline, good thinking, mental resilience. Personally, I'm not so sure about that. Honestly, I believe once you're in a structure, and if the structure expects this and this and this, and your family expect you to do this and this and this, and the whole country expect you to do this and this and this, well, you do it. To not do it will be, I think, impossible to imagine. So I don't consider that to be wonderful. He's succeeded in coping with military service and combat. And it's a fact. Well done for that. But I don't think it's part of his personality. I think his personality is that when he's told to do something, he does it. Good soldier. It says in his decision-making styles, his actions suggest a brand of emotion and value-driven decision-making, sometimes at the expense of political expediency. No idea what that's meant to mean. It says that overall, Prince Harry's personality provides empathy, courage, and rebellious independence with occasional impulsivity. I do not agree with that. Empathy, I agree with. Courage, maybe. Rebellious independence, absolutely not. On the field, he's been a puppet on a string, and the strings were pulled. And he's just done what he's been told. And I certainly don't think he's a rebel. I don't think he has that type of courage. And I don't think that's part of who he is. I think he's a much, much softer person than that. And I think he's really being pushed to express what he's meant to express. Anyway, that's my view on Harry. And also some of the similar experiences I feel he's had with Meghan. I trust you found this segment of this episode of Meghan's Men interesting and informative. I know that I did. So, what's next? Meghan's relationship with her parents. It's about time we look to that. However, it's not yet time to look at her conflict with Thomas. That's a bit later on. So tune in next Monday and we'll look a little deeper into her relationship with her parents. And don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, share and comment. See you then. Kindest, Gary. Okay, so there we are. So I obviously find all these things very interesting, which is why I do them. And I really believe that they have both experienced similar sorts of childhood. And that is, for me, is the basis of a lot of my reflections. And next week, as I've said before, I'm going to start a case study of a real patient I had. Now, obviously, I'm going to change an awful lot of details because I have to respect the medical secret and her personal life. So hopefully nobody will ever imagine who it is that I'm talking about, because there's an awful lot of things that are very, very different. However, it is presented as a real case study. Excuse me. The basis is totally true. And the structure that of the family, of this woman's relationship with her father and with her mother are based on the real experience I've had, the real case study. So this is something that I consider to be incredibly interesting. I'm quite pleased the way that it's coming out. I've not finished it yet. I've still got quite a bit of work to do to get it finished. So I better work on it to get it ready for next Monday, because it does take an awful lot of time for these videos because of not only the recording of it, the re-recording of it, the checking of it, and then the images of it. So it's quite a lot of work to do, but that's okay. It's just going to be really, really great. It's a great story. It's a wonderful story. It's going to be over 2 or 3 weeks. So get yourself ready to be a little bit frustrated at the end, but it's a good story. It's a real story, maybe during the story you will realize what the problem is, specifically with the mother, because the mother is quite a special person. But as I say, there is something that for me is very, very similar to how I read the childhood experiences of both Meghan and Harry. And that is something that's really worth having a look at. So I'm going to see you next week, I hope. It's going to be fun. The chat is open. If you want to leave me a message, you want to tell me where you're coming from, what you think about the videos, what I can do to improve them, let me know, because that's what I'm doing. If there's things that I've missed out that maybe I won't be able to put into a YouTube video, the plans are to write a book with this. Well, to use basic what's gone on the YouTube video, and to add a couple of chapters to things that I thought were interesting and important. But these videos are going on forever, and it's weeks and weeks and weeks. I thought it would be much shorter than that, but a lot of the videos that I thought would be only 1 week have turned into 2 weeks. And for instance, this next one, which I thought would be 1 week, to do with the case study, and a week to do very much to do with Meghan and her parents, and now it's 3 weeks plus one with Meghan and her parents. So it's another 2 weeks worth of videos that we're going to have. So it's going. I don't want it to go on forever. So I'm not going to add everything that I can think of onto the YouTube videos, but if you have questions, you have remarks, you have things that are missed out, or things that you want to correct, send me a message. And when I get round to writing the book, which I hope sometime in the summer, I also have I'm a bit complicated for the books at the moment. I've been writing a book on something called indirect hypnosis, which is a hypnosis. I use it for trauma. And I meant to have it finished by the end of this month. And then because of the war that started in Iran, I spoke to some people there, and it seems that there's things that I've missed out that I need to add to the book. So I have the book on indirect hypnosis to finish, which I will more than not finish until I finish the YouTube stuff, because it's taking me so long, but we will see. Then I have the Meghan book, which I'm going to use a lot of the YouTube stuff, but it needs to be edited, it needs to be put together, and I need to add some extra chapters, and that's going to take me a while to do. And as well as that, for those of you who actually look on Amazon and see some of the stuff that I've written already 7 books, which is like a spiritual adventure, bit of a type of modern quantum leap type of concept. And it's a series of books called The Island of Serenity, which I wrote the last one about 5 years ago. So I've written 7 in the series, and I planned about 12 or 13. So that I suddenly got very inspired, not actually to write the 8th book in the series, which would be logical, but to actually write the 9th book in the series. And so I'm very excited to do that. So my plan is by the end of the summer, if all goes well, I will get down to starting to write that book, which is it's called The Island of Love, and it's a series of love stories. It's a series of love stories in which my anti-hero, who is, I'm not going to explain the whole of the concept of the Island Serenity series, but this guy is a person that screwed up his life, and he goes into this alternative reality, which I'm not going to explain the details of because you have to find out. And within that altered reality, he has to pass through 7 islands, and those are the chakra. If you understand what the chakra are, they are the energy levels of the human body, according to some logic. And he goes through each of the chakra. And the first one is the base chakra, which is the island of survival. And then there's the sacral center, which is the island of pleasure. And then we have the solar plexus, I'm forgetting, the solar plexus, which is confidence and nobility. So I've gone through those 3 already, and that's part of the 7 books. And another part of the books are the descent of the guy who is the hero or the anti-hero, and so we see the whole of his life because he's about to commit suicide and he's telling everybody his whole life. So that's mixed in. So it's a bit of a confused mix, but it's very, very interesting. And so I've got to I finished the solar plexus, and the next one, the eighth one, is really the end of his 39 year before he commits suicide, when he totally screws up everybody's life. And I'm not really motivated to do that at the moment. I'm really motivated to do the ninth book. And the ninth book, as I said, is the book about love. And there are about 4 or 5 love stories that are all intermingled. And I've got myself very excited to do that. So that's my plan for the end of the summer. So I've got quite a few books that are sort of like planned, one to finish off, one to put together, and one basically to start from scratch. So if I can get 3 books out this year, that's going to be it's going to be a bit of a record for me. I think I've not done that many in 1 year, and if I have, it's been a long, long time. So that's the plan. So I'm not going to be able to do that yet. So anyway, so for the Meghan book, if you have any comments, any remarks, any ideas, any suggestions, or any corrections, please let me know so that I can put it down there. So that's about all for tonight. Thank you for your time and your attention. And as I say, like, share, comment, do everything that everybody keeps asking you to do, so that more people can see what's going on. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And hopefully I'll see you next week. Bye for now.